When we look back several years from now, and somebody who was not with us during the year of COVID, they'll say, what was it like in the year of COVID? Words like drudgery, misery, restlessness, loss of hopefulness will probably come to mind. Oh, wait a minute, that was the first reading in Job, wasn't it? So apparently, we're not the first to have gone through such things. Job had life, had what he needed, what he wanted, and then Satan was allowed to mess with his life. And this was the reaction of the human heart, pure and simple. Drudgery, misery, restlessness, loss of hopefulness. I'll never be happy again. It can sound a little melodramatic, but it's really what the human heart perceives on the surface, at surface level. St. Paul reminds us that we need to adapt. To the weak, he becomes weak in order to win them over. In other words, he understands their perspective. He doesn't come in, like a bull in a china shop, although sometimes he does. But he gets to the heart of the matter with every individual. He understands where they're coming from, as God understands us, where we are on our daily journey. The difficulties we face, the challenges we must endure, but also the highlights, the high points that also are part of our lives. Birth of a child, hopefulness, healing, all of those things. God is with us, uniquely understanding us on our daily journey. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus understands. He understands when Peter and Andrew and James and John, Peter says, my mother-in-law is sick, she has a fever, probably making, first and foremost, apologies, because one of hospitality and welcome. She's not able to do that because she's not feeling well. But that was not the greatest point. Part of that information was also hopefulness. I'm hoping Jesus understands what I'm saying so that he will reach out to her with healing as well. And he does. He goes to her, he takes her hand, helps her up, and the fever leaves her. She is healed. And indeed, the entire town at a certain point is gathered outside the house. Everybody who had a need, who prayed and hoped to God. And now this is Jesus of Nazareth. He's unlike any of the false prophets who came before him. His words have power. They have effect. They're not lifeless, but they bring life and healing. And so they come to him because many had different diseases. Some were possessed by demons. They longed for freedom of spirit, not to be held down or held captive by the demons that possessed them. So all had a need, all hoped that God would once again look at them level, eye to eye, one-on-one, and see within them that great need. And Jesus reached out and he cured many of the diseases, many different diseases. He freed those who were possessed, gave them that sense of freedom, that sense of balance and hopefulness once again in their lives. Everyone individually treated uniquely the same, but treated individually as well. And so the challenge then is for us to do the same. When we look at others, do we treat them as a group, or do we look at them individually? Do we understand what they're going through? We have that great hopefulness that God understands where we are, what we're going through, and he does. But should not the disciples do the same? Jesus gives the example time and time again. And as the master goes, so go the followers. A little scary later on for the disciples when Jesus is arrested. because, But following the resurrection, they realize it must be that way. As the Master has gone, so must go the followers. So must they also live up to that unique grace and spirit within their own lives and hearts. A great example Jesus gives in the gospel today is that of rising very early the next morning, going off by himself to a deserted place and simply praying, setting his life, his day, in the power and presence of the Father, so that no matter what came along, no matter who came along, had a need, had a this, had a that, he was ready for any variable in the day. But he knew the importance of centering himself and centering his day in the presence of the Father. The disciples, of course, coming along, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Well, there you are. Whoa, why didn't you tell us? Everybody's looking for you. We have to get back. He doesn't say, dude, I'm praying. Shh. Sit over on the rock for a while. I'll be right with you. But he simply gives the example. This is how you start your day. Because without God, the day is going to be awfully, awfully difficult, if not almost insurmountable. And so it's a challenge still today. For we who are called to faith, we are called to believe that things will get better. There is a sense of hopefulness. There is always something to hope for. Jesus does understand us one-on-one. He knows the struggles we endure, and he is there with us. And so we do not give up hope. We do not find life to be misery or drudgery, but life is filled with a sense of purpose, filled with the grace of God. We know there are times that we enter into that unique moment of grace. And as we center ourselves and set ourselves in God's presence at the beginning of each new day, sometimes we become a grace moment for someone else because we understand them one-on-one. We either rise or lower ourselves to their level to understand them, not to judge them, but to understand them, to see where they're at, to see where we might reach out in the name of Christ to bring that sense of hopefulness or healing or whatever is needed in that moment. The grace is provided by the Holy Spirit. We simply are the messengers. And so, my sisters and brothers, let us look to the Lord each day. Let us put him first and foremost at the dawn of each new day. It only takes 2 minutes. You're going to have the longest 2 minutes in history sometime this afternoon at the Super Bowl. 2-minute warning. Well, you got another half hour, 45 minutes. Okay. But something very simple. Lord, let me be open to you this day. Let me know always that you are there. You walk every step of the journey with me. You open me to moments of grace, for hope and for healing. As I walk with you in your presence, in and among us, let me, in some way, be your grace for others. That didn't even take 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It has to come from the heart. Simply a prayer from the heart, an openness to God, asking and being able and willing to be the disciple that puts into practice the faith we preach and believe. God's grace, mercy, and blessing be with you in this week ahead. May you receive and become the grace of God for the healing of the world.